Clara, I said quietly, keeping my tone polite as I held up the wrapped gift box. I know I'm a few days late, but I brought Lily's birthday present. My back finally cleared up today, and Clara waved 2 fingers in the air, cutting me off mid-sentence without even breaking her phone conversation. Hold on, Jason. Let me switch rooms, she murmured into her phone before glancing at me with cold impatience. She's up in her bedroom, Earl. Just don't make a mess or get her all riled up, all right? I have a crucial Zoom conference with the interior landscape architect in 10 minutes, and I cannot have any noise upstairs. I smiled, stepped up to the white door, and gave 3 distinct, rhythmic knocks, the rhythmic cadence that formed our own secret distress code whenever we worked on mechanical projects together. Lieutenant Lily, I called out softly through the wood. It's Grandpa Arthur reporting for duty with special cargo from the workshop. Usually, whenever I knocked on that door with our secret distress code, I would hear the immediate patter of little bare feet running across the hardwood floor, followed by a squeal of excitement as the door flew open. Today there was nothing, just a heavy, hollow silence. I frowned, leaned my ear closer to the panel, and knocked again. Lilybug? You awake in there, Grandpa Arthur? She murmured. Her little voice lacked its usual bright ring. The syllables tumbled out thick, slow, and delayed, like a satellite transmission struggling through heavy static. She attempted to smile, but the muscles in her face seemed too tired to hold the expression, collapsing back into a blank, drowsy slackness. I immediately dropped to one knee on the hallway carpet, putting my face right at her eye level so I wouldn't intimidate her. I kept my breathing steady and my voice warm and gentle, masking the sudden cold dread tightening inside my chest. Hey there, birthday girl, I said softly, reaching out to lightly touch her forearm. Her skin was cool to the touch, her muscle tone strangely limp. I am so sorry I missed your big party on Friday, Bug. Old Grandpa's spine decided to act like a rusty gear. Are you still celebrating, or did you just wake up from a nap? She hummed vaguely, her head tilting heavily to the side until her cheek rested against the painted doorframe. Not napping, just sleepy, Grandpa. My head feels like heavy mud today. Let's get you sat down before you fall over. Little Bug, I whispered, gently placing my hands around her small waist and lifting her back toward her bed. She didn't resist at all. She sank into the middle of her quilt with a heavy, boneless sigh. I sat on the edge of the mattress beside her and placed the wrapped cherrywood box on her lap. Here, I made this just for you in the shop. Take your time, sweetie. It's the music gears, she whispered, tracing the glass with one trembling little finger. She turned the brass winding key on the side twice, and the delicate crystalline notes of her favorite melody began to chime softly in the quiet room. Thank you, Grandpa. I'm going to keep it right here beside Barnaby. Grandpa Arthur, she whispered, her voice barely louder than the ticking gears of the music box beside her. Can you please ask Mommy to stop putting the special purple juice in my drink every day after lunch? It makes my eyes feel all dark and heavy. And my tummy feels weird, and I can't wake up when the tall man with the shiny watch comes over to visit her inside the secret room downstairs. I hear you, Lilybug, I said softly, my voice as steady as bedrock. And I promise you right here, right now, you are never drinking that purple juice again. How about you and I go take a little ride together? Just you and me. We're going to go get that waffle cone I promised you. And then we're going to go see a very smart friend of mine who knows all about how to make heavy heads feel light again. Does that sound like a plan? Clara, I said clearly, projecting just enough volume to cut through her laughter. I'm taking Lily out for a birthday ice cream treat and a drive around the park. Just Grandpa and granddaughter time. We'll be out for a few hours. Clara flicked her left wrist in a dismissive wave without lifting her gaze from her glowing screen. Sure, Earl, whatever. Just make sure she doesn't eat too much sugar. She was fussy all morning. And don't bring her back right at 5. I have a private wine tasting consultation, and I need the house quiet. Don't worry, I replied, my tone flat and cold enough to cut diamonds. You won't be troubled by any noise from her anytime soon. Arthur, Raymond said warmly, holding out his hand before his medical instincts registered the scene in front of him. He stopped dead in his tracks, his eyes dropping from my face to the slumbering 7-year-old girl cradled in my arms. What's going on? David mentioned last week that you were laid up with your lumbar strain. Why is Lily unresponsive at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon? Raymond, 25 minutes ago, Lily told me that her mother has been routinely mixing a special sweet purple juice into her afternoon drinks right after lunch. She stated explicitly that the drink makes her eyes go dark, causes physical disorientation, and forces her into heavy sedation specifically during the afternoon hours, when an unidentified adult male visits the house while my son is abroad on business. Within 2 minutes of sitting in my truck, she lost consciousness and has not roused since. I need a comprehensive emergency toxicology screen, full blood serum panel, and urinalysis right now. And I need every vial sealed, chain of custody logged and certified. Pupils sluggish, bilateral constriction delayed. Raymond muttered softly into his lapel dictation recorder as he checked her radial pulse and oxygen saturation levels. Muscle tone hypotonic, deep tendon reflexes blunted, respiratory rate 14 per minute and shallow. Arthur, step back to the chair. We will have preliminary mass spectrometry results in roughly 35 to 40 minutes. Arthur, Raymond said quietly, his voice taut with professional restraint. How long has David been in Frankfurt on this current contract? 11 days, I replied coldly. He's scheduled to fly back into Memphis late Friday evening. And how many times over the past 6 months have you noticed Lily exhibiting lethargy or delayed speech patterns during your visits? Last Christmas, I said slowly, opening my eyes to meet Raymond's gaze. We were doing presents at the house around 3 in the afternoon. Lily fell asleep right on the living room rug, halfway through opening her stocking. Clara laughed and told everyone that Lily had stayed up all night watching Christmas movies on her tablet. I accepted it 2 months ago, in August, when I dropped off some custom shelving units for David's home office. Lily came downstairs walking like her balance was off. Clara told me she had just taken a double dose of children's allergy syrup for a ragweed flare-up. I accepted that too, because decent men don't naturally assume that a mother is chemically suppressing her own 7-year-old daughter just to clear the house. Arthur, his voice came out measured, deliberate, and chillingly formal, the exact tone a military physician uses when delivering casualty reports. The quantitative toxicology panel is conclusive. Lily's blood serum and urine contain massive toxicological concentrations of diphenhydramine, alongside high concentrations of promethazine, a prescription-grade phenothiazine sedative, commonly formulated with codeine or heavy antihistamines in liquid syrups. Look at these metabolite ratios, Arthur, Raymond said, his voice dropping into a razor-sharp whisper. This is not an accidental ingestion of cough syrup. This is not a one-time double dose for a seasonal allergy. The accumulation of secondary liver metabolites in her system is scientifically consistent with daily, systematic, high-dose administration spanning an extended window of at least 6 to 8 months. Whoever is doing this has been carefully dosing her every single afternoon to induce chemical paralysis and deep sleep of 6 to 8 hours at a time. What our blood diagnosis discovered inside her system confirms that it is a medical miracle her liver enzymes aren't permanently scarred right now. Raymond, I asked quietly, turning to face him, what is your mandatory protocol from this exact second forward? You already know the law, Arthur, Raymond said flatly. I am a licensed pediatric physician in the state of Tennessee. Under Section 371403 of the Tennessee Code, I am legally and ethically mandated to report verified chemical child endangerment to Child Protective Services and the East Memphis Special Investigations Division immediately upon confirmation. I am required to pick up that telephone on the wall right now. Raymond, you know who I am, and you know how I operate, I said, my voice vibrating with absolute, unshakable authority. If you call CPS right now without the rest of the puzzle solved, what happens? They send a social worker and 2 uniformed patrol officers to that mansion in Collierville tonight. Clara instantly calls her high-priced defense attorneys. She claims Lily accidentally got into an old bottle of cough syrup in the bathroom cabinet. She puts on a weeping mother act for the cameras, and because David is 6,000 miles away in Frankfurt, who knows what legal maneuvers her legal team pulls to retain temporary custody or destroy the evidence before David even lands on U.S. soil. Give me exactly 48 hours, Raymond, I said softly. Do not log the state registry alert until Friday morning at 8:00 a.m. Keep these certified lab samples locked in your personal biometric safe under strict chain of custody. Lily is leaving this clinic with me right now. She is coming to my fortified homestead in Germantown, and she is not returning to that house or taking one sip of liquid from her mother's hands again. I am going to uncover who the man visiting that house is, how Clara is obtaining prescription-grade promethazine, and what else they are stealing from my son. When David lands on Friday, we are not just going to file a complaint, we are going to drop an airtight, inescapable vault of steel over both of them. Friday morning, Arthur, Raymond said, handing me the sealed packet. At exactly 8 a.m. on Friday, if David and you are not standing inside my office with your family attorney, ready to file the Joint Emergency Protective Order, I transmit the data directly to the District Attorney's Felony Division myself. You won't have to wait a minute past 8, Raymond, I said. Thank you, Arthur. Mark answers on the second ring, his deep voice crisp and alert. To what do I owe the pleasure? Tell me you're calling to invite me out for some of your smoked ribs this weekend. Marcus, I need your entire agency's primary focus for the next 48 hours, and I need it completely off the books until we execute, I said flatly. I am sitting at my kitchen table looking at a certified pediatric toxicology report, confirming that my 7-year-old granddaughter has been systematically poisoned with high-dose promethazine and sedatives for the past 8 months by her own mother, Clara, inside my son David's home in Collierville. The line went dead silent for 5 seconds. When Marcus spoke again, every trace of friendly banter had vanished, replaced by the razor-sharp tone of a federal investigator entering tactical mode. Give me the target parameters right now, Arthur. What do you need? 3 things, I replied, opening my logbook and uncapping my fountain pen. First, I need full, continuous 24-hour physical and electronic surveillance on David's residence in Collierville, starting tonight. Lily told me today that the drugging occurs specifically because a tall man with a shiny watch visits the house during the afternoons while David is overseas. I want total identification on that male name, employment, vehicle registration, and background check. Second, promethazine syrup requires a Class C controlled prescription or an illicit pharmacy pipeline. I want you to run a deep web and pharmacy database audit on every medical provider, credit card transaction, and pharmacy account tied to Clara over the past 12 months to prove continuous, intentional acquisition. Third, David has over $4 million in liquid capital, joint real estate trusts, and corporate stock portfolios tied into his household accounts. If a woman is drugging her child to carry on a 6 to 8 month illicit double life right in the marital home, she isn't just taking her time, she's taking his money. Run a complete covert forensic audit on every joint bank account, wire transfer, and asset shift connected to Clara's social security number since January. Consider it done, Marcus said coldly. I'm deploying 2 two-man surveillance units to Collierville within the hour. My cyber forensics team is pulling the financial and pharmacy trails right now. Where is the child, Arthur? She's asleep in my secure guest room, right down the hall from me. She will not leave my property until David has full physical and legal custody secured by federal order. Good. Keep her safe. I will meet you at your property on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. sharp with the complete dossiers. And Arthur, do not reach out to your son until I hand you that folder. If David calls Clara tonight and his voice slips even half an octave, she will sense the trap and start shredding documents before we can lock the freeze orders. My son won't hear a whisper from me until he is sitting at my kitchen table looking at the steel trap we've built. I promised. I ended the call, set the phone down next to my coffee mug, and walked back down the hallway to check on Lily. Hey, Dad. David's voice came through the speaker, sounding exhausted, hollow-eyed, but deeply affectionate. The voice of a 34-year-old man who had just spent 14 hours negotiating software licensing rights across 2 time zones, just to secure his family's future. I finally got a break between meetings. How's your back doing? Did you manage to drop off Lily's music box today? Back is feeling 80% better, son, I said, my voice warm and steady. In fact, I went over to the house yesterday afternoon, gave her the box, and decided to kidnap my granddaughter for a little extended birthday week out at my place. She's right inside the kitchen, eating strawberries, and watching a cartoon right now. Oh man, really? David let out a long, relieved sigh of gratitude. Dad, that is fantastic, honestly. Every time I've called home over the past few months, Clara has told me that Lily's been going through some heavy growth spurt where she's just lethargic, sleeping 14 hours a day, and super fussy when she wakes up. It's been worrying me sick while I'm over here, but Clara kept saying the pediatrician told her it was just normal developmental fatigue. Well, you don't need to worry about any fatigue while she's with me, David, I said smoothly. We've been building bird houses and winding up her music box all afternoon. Listen to me carefully, son. What exact flight are you taking back to Memphis on Friday? I'm on the direct Lufthansa flight out of Frankfurt, connecting through Atlanta, David replied. I should touch down at Memphis International right around 6:15 p.m. on Friday evening. Perfect, I said. When you land, do not take an Uber straight to Collierville. I want you to grab a rental car or taxi at the terminal and drive straight out to my house on Exeter Road first. I've got a fresh batch of braised short ribs and skillet cornbread ready for you, and I want you to spend a few quiet hours with me and Lily before you head home to face the weekend rush. Can you do that for me? Are you kidding? Short ribs and cornbread after 10 days of German hotel food. I'll be at your front door by 7:15 p.m., Dad. I love you too, son. Travel safe, Arthur. Meet your tall man with the shiny watch, Marcus said grimly, tapping his index finger on an 8x10 glossy photo of a tall, impeccably groomed man with slicked-back dark hair, wearing a bespoke three-piece Italian suit and a $40,000 platinum Rolex Daytona chronometer on his left wrist. His name is Julian Vance Smythe. He is 38 years old, and he is the Senior Vice President of Private Wealth Acquisitions at the Sterling and Vance Investment Guild right here in downtown Memphis, the exact same private financial firm where your son David maintains his primary executive corporate portfolio. I picked up the photograph, my eyes scanning the arrogant, sculpted sneer on Julian Vance Smith's face. How did Clara connect with him? He was assigned as David and Clara's secondary wealth management advisor 14 months ago, during David's first major corporate stock buyout, Evelyn Vance explained, sliding a detailed chronological chart across the table. According to her surveillance and electronic handshake intercepts, the illicit physical relationship between Clara and Julian began approximately 9 months ago, which correlates down to the exact week with the first spikes in Clara's pharmacy records. Let's talk about the promethazine and the sedatives, Evelyn said, her voice dripping with professional disgust. Clara didn't use her regular family pediatrician or a legitimate local pharmacy where Dr. Hayes could see the records. Instead, she used Julian Vance Smith's VIP corporate concierge medical account to secure 5 separate, recurring prescriptions for high-concentration, promethazine cough syrup, and pediatric sedative drops under the fraudulent diagnosis of chronic pediatric insomnia and severe vestibular migraine. Over the past 9 months, Julian Vance Smith's personal American Express Platinum card has paid for 22 separate 400-milliliter bottles of liquid promethazine, dispensed from an out-of-network private specialty pharmacy in Nashville, and couriered directly to Clara's residential address in Collierville every single month, where they stashed them inside the climate-controlled secret room downstairs. I stared at the receipts, 22 bottles in 9 months. They hadn't just drugged my granddaughter when Julian came over to the house. They had been keeping her in a state of chemical submission on a near-daily basis, clearing the board, so Clara could live the life of a single, unburdened socialite while Julian lounging inside that secret room and master bedroom drinking my son's vintage Bordeaux. And what about the financial side, Marcus? I asked, my voice dropping into an icy, dangerous register. What did your audit find inside David's accounts? Marcus leaned forward, resting both hands flat on the blueprints. Arthur, what we found inside those accounts is a premeditated, systematic financial slaughter. For the past 6 months, while David has been working 14-hour days overseas, Clara has been utilizing her power of attorney on their joint marital trust to quietly siphon liquid assets out of David's primary portfolio. She hasn't just been buying designer clothes and country club memberships. She and Julian Vance Smith have set up a shell limited liability corporation registered in Delaware under the name Apex Horizon Holdings LLC between May 1st and October 12th of this year. Evelyn stated coldly, Clara executed 7 separate wire transfers totaling $1,480,000 straight out of David's joint investment trust, directly into the bank accounts of Apex Horizon Holdings LLC. And who is the sole registered corporate agent of Apex Horizon Holdings? Julian Vance Smith. They have utilized your son's hard-earned capital as the primary down payment on a $3.8 million private luxury estate in Scottsdale, Arizona. According to the intercepted email correspondence between Clara's personal Gmail and Julian's private server, the closing date on the Scottsdale estate is scheduled for next Friday, October 24th. Once the property closes and the funds are locked inside the out-of-state LLC, Clara's legal team was prepared to serve David with emergency divorce papers while he was overseas, freeze his remaining assets with false allegations of domestic abandonment, and walk away with nearly $2 million in stolen capital, while introducing herself as his secret soon-to-be fiancé to his Southwest equity partners, all while claiming full custody of Lily. Marcus, I said quietly, closing both binders and securing the red straps with definitive, final snaps. Tomorrow morning at 8, you, Evelyn, and I are meeting with James Vance Miller at his law offices downtown. We are presenting every single one of these dossiers, alongside Dr. Hayes' certified pediatric toxicology report, directly to the Shelby County District Attorney's Special Prosecutions Division and the Emergency Family Court Judge. I want ex parte immediate felony warrants drawn up for both Clara and Julian Vance Smith on charges of aggravated child endangerment, conspiracy to distribute Class C controlled narcotics to a minor, and grand financial wire fraud. And I want an emergency, immediate ex parte order of protection granting my son David sole, permanent, unassisted physical and legal custody of Lily. And when do you want the traps sprung, Arthur? Marcus asked, his eyes gleaming with cold professional anticipation. We don't spring it in a quiet hallway or over a phone call, I said softly. According to Clara's social media and calendar intercepts, she and Julian Vance Smith are hosting a massive, high-society Sunday afternoon brunch on the back patio of David's mansion this coming Sunday, October 19th. They have invited 30 of Julian's top investment partners, senior corporate directors, and high-society country club elites to celebrate Julian's upcoming corporate promotion and real estate acquisitions. They want a public audience to show off their curated, perfect lives. We are going to give them the most unforgettable, devastating public performance in the history of Shelby County. Hey, Dad, David said warmly, pulling me into a tight two-armed hug right in the middle of the kitchen. God, it smells incredible in here. You have no idea how much I missed your short ribs while I was sitting in those Frankfurt boardrooms. Where's my favorite girl? Is Lily asleep already? She had a big afternoon in the workshop, David, I said gently, patting his back before stepping away to pull out his chair at the head of the dining table. She fell asleep about 20 minutes ago upstairs. Sit down, son, wash up, take off your jacket, and let's get some hot food into you right now. David blinked, his relaxed smile slowly fading, as he looked down at the official red diagnostic borders and the legal case numbers stamped across the covers. He looked up at my face, his eyebrows furrowing with instinctive concern. Dad, what is all this? What's going on? David, I said, my voice dropping into that quiet, unshakable bedrock register that he had heard only twice before in his entire life, once when his grandfather passed away, and once when his mother Beverly lost her battle with cancer when he was 19 years old. I raised you to be an architect. I taught you how to read structural diagrams, and I taught you that when a building is collapsing, you do not look away from the blueprints, no matter how much the numbers hurt. I am going to ask you to open these folders right now, in sequence from left to right, and read every single page inside them without speaking a word until you reach the end. Then, he opened folder number 3, the 20 high-resolution surveillance photographs of Clara and Julian Vance Smith entering and exiting local boutique hotels, alongside the crystal-clear shots of Julian lounging on David's own back patio, wearing his $40,000 watch, while Lily was locked unconscious in her upstairs bedroom, where she overheard them laughing about her sedated slumber. And finally, he turned to the certified bank audits proving the theft of $1,480,000 wired directly from his joint investment trust into Apex Horizon Holdings LLC, where Julian boasted that he had completely replaced David in every aspect of his life. Does Lily know what was in the juice, Dad? David asked. His voice wasn't loud, it was a low, raspy whisper that sounded like steel scraping across concrete. No, David, I said gently. She just knows that the sweet purple drink Mommy gave her made her eyes feel heavy and her tummy feel dark, and she didn't like how she couldn't wake up when the tall man came over. That is all she knows, and if we do our jobs right this Sunday, that is all she will ever have to know for the rest of her childhood. What time are James Vance Miller, Dr. Hayes, and the district attorney's felony strike team meeting us at the house on Sunday morning? They will be parked out of sight down the block at exactly 10:30 a.m., David, I replied, leaning forward to place my hand over his clenched fist. And by the time the church bells ring at noon, your house will be clean, your daughter will be safe, and those 2 cowards will be wearing steel chains around their wrists. Standing right at the center of the crowd, basking in the sunlight and the obsequious flattery of his peers, was Julian Vance Smith. He wore a bespoke light gray linen suit, his platinum Rolex Daytona catching the sunlight with every gesture as he held a flute of champagne and boasted loudly to two senior corporate vice presidents about his imminent executive promotion and his aggressive real estate expansion into the Southwest private equity markets. Standing right beside him, her arm casually brushing against his sleeve with practiced, arrogant possessiveness, was Clara, wearing a $4,000 white designer cocktail dress, smiling brilliantly for the high society photographers she had hired to document her flawless hosting. At precisely 11:30 a.m., while Julian Vance Smith was raising his champagne flute to deliver a pompous toast about the power of strategic partnerships and uncompromising luxury, the heavy wrought iron side gates of the backyard swung wide open. Clara's face turned from radiant, sunlit bronze to the chalky, dead gray of wet cement in less than a heartbeat. She took 2 stumbling steps backward, her champagne glass slipping from her trembling fingers and shattering into 40 sparkling pieces across the polished limestone patio. "David?" she choked out, her voice cracking with wild, shrill panic as her eyes darted from her husband to the armed sheriff's deputies standing behind him. "David, why aren't you in Germany? What are you doing here right now? Why are there police officers on our property during a private, corporate gathering? What in the hell is the meaning of this interruption?" Julian barked, his face flushing with entitled indignation as he tried to assert dominance over the situation. "David, your father is trespassing on private property during a sanctioned investment celebration. And he sneered directly at me, his lips curling with utter contempt as his eyes swept over my leather work boots and field jacket. "I gave you specific instructions 2 weeks ago when you dropped off those wooden shelves. I told you to clean up the leaves in the driveway and get off the premises. You are nothing but an old, grease-stained handyman, and if you don't take your senile carcass off this patio in 30 seconds, I am having these officers arrest you for criminal trespass and public harassment right now." "Julian Vance Smith," I said clearly, my voice ringing out across the dead-silent patio with such razor-sharp, chilling precision that every single corporate director and country club socialite heard every syllable as if it were spoken through a megaphone. "You looked at these grease-stained hands, these work boots, and my worn jacket, and your arrogant, entitled brain assumed I was just a senile old handyman you could toss $50 to while you drank my son's wine. That was your first fatal mistake. And you looked at my innocent 7-year-old granddaughter," I continued, my voice hardening into pure, unyielding steel, "and your cowardly, selfish mind decided she was just a noisy inconvenience you could systematically chemically poison into a coma with prescription promethazine syrup every afternoon, just so you could lounge in my son's master bedroom without hearing her footsteps. That was your final absolute mistake. That's an outrageous lie." Julian stammered, his face turning beet red as sweat broke out across his forehead. He backed away, turning toward his senior managing director, who was standing near the pergola, looking at him with absolute, unmitigated horror. "Richard, listen to me. This old lunatic is making up defamatory slander. He's trying to extort our firm. I have never touched that child or—" "Save your breath for the district attorney, Mr. Vance Smith," James Vance Miller cut in, stepping forward in his tailored gray suit and holding up the thick manila dossier containing the pharmacy records and wire transfer audits. He didn't speak to Julian. He turned directly toward Richard Sterling, the senior managing partner of the Sterling and Vance Investment Guild, and the 30 corporate elites gathered on the lawn, who stood completely speechless at the overwhelming evidence. "Ladies and gentlemen," James announced clearly, his voice carrying the full weight of the Tennessee bar. "For the past 9 months, while my client, David Vance, has been working abroad on international software contracts, his wife, Clara Vance, and her primary wealth management advisor, Julian Vance Smythe, have engaged in a systematic criminal conspiracy right inside this residence. Using Mr. Vance Smith's corporate VIP medical accounts and personal American Express card, they have illegally purchased and delivered 22 bottles of Class C controlled promethazine sedative syrup, which they intentionally and routinely administered to my client's 7-year-old daughter, Lily, to induce chemical paralysis and 8-hour sedation during their afternoon physical rendezvous. Furthermore," James continued inexorably, driving the final stakes right through Julian's corporate coffin, "our forensic financial audit, certified this morning by federal banking examiners, confirms that Julian Vance Smythe and Clara Vance utilized fraudulent power of attorney documents to wire $480,000 directly out of my client's joint investment portfolio into an illicit Delaware shell company named Apex Horizon Holdings LLC, registered solely to Julian Vance Smith to purchase a private estate in Scottsdale, Arizona. They are not just adulterers, they are child poisoners and grand financial felons. You lost the right to call yourself her mother the exact second you poured poison into her cup, just to clear the room for another man. Clara, David said, his voice quiet, flat, and colder than liquid nitrogen. And you lost the right to speak my name when you stole my daughter's childhood to pay for your fantasy. Execute the felony warrants, officers, David said cleanly. Take them both off my property. At the exact same instant, the second armed deputy and the district attorney's felony investigator flanked Julian Vance Smythe right beside the pergola bar. Julian tried to jerk his arm away, his face contorted in blind, arrogant rage as he lunged forward, raising his fist to grab David by the collar. Before Julian could even swing, David sidestepped with lightning reflexes and delivered a lightning-fast, bone-crushing punch right to the point of Julian's jaw, having punched the entitled wealth manager flat onto the polished limestone pavers. Before Julian could even gasp for breath, the armed deputy wrenched both of his arms behind his gray linen suit jacket and snapped the steel cuffs over his wrists right above his $40,000 platinum Rolex watch as he lay sprawled on the stones.